In the vastness of space, a small spaceship named the Explorer floated among the stars. Inside, astronaut Jack Turner sat at the control panel, staring at the blinking lights and screens. He was on a mission to explore a newly discovered planet, one that scientists believed might hold secrets about life beyond Earth. Jack loved his job, but today felt different. A storm was brewing outside, and the ship shook as if it were alive. "Come on, just a little longer," Jack said to himself, gripping the control stick tightly. He was determined to keep the ship steady. Suddenly, the alarms blared loudly, filling the cockpit with a warning sound. Jack's heart raced. He glanced at the readouts. Power levels were dropping fast, and the ship's systems began to fail. Before he could react, a massive lightning bolt struck the ship. The lights flickered, and the control panel sparked. "No, no, no," Jack shouted, frantically pressing buttons, trying to regain control. But it was too late. The ship spiraled out of control, and Jack felt a jolt as the ship began to plummet toward the planet below. With a final crash, the ship slammed into the ground, throwing Jack against his seat. Everything went dark. When he opened his eyes, he was surrounded by silence. The cockpit was a mess of wires and debris. "Is anyone out there?" Jack called, but no one answered. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. The only sound was the soft hiss of the ship's systems slowly powering down. Jack carefully unbuckled himself and stood up, feeling a sharp pain in his leg. He looked down and saw a small cut. "Just a scratch," he muttered. He had to get out of the ship. He pushed open the broken door, and fresh air flooded in. Stepping outside, Jack squinted against the bright sunlight. He was in a dense jungle filled with tall trees, strange plants, and colorful flowers. The air was warm and thick with the scent of earth and plants. Birds, or what he thought were birds, flitted above him, their colors vibrant against the blue sky. Jack took a moment to collect himself. "Okay, Jack, think," he said aloud. He needed to find help and assess the damage to his ship. He looked around, realizing he was alone on this strange planet. "I can't just stand here," he decided, setting off into the jungle. As he walked, the sounds of the jungle surrounded him. Leaves rustling, insects buzzing, and distant animal calls. Jack felt a mix of excitement and fear. He was the first human to set foot on this alien world, and he knew he had to be cautious. After walking for a while, Jack noticed the ground was uneven, and the path became narrower. He pushed through thick vines and branches, feeling the sweat bead on his forehead. Suddenly, he heard a noise behind him, and he spun around. A low growl echoed in the distance, sending chills down his spine. Jack's heart raced as he realized he might not be alone after all. "What is that?" he whispered to himself. He took a deep breath and kept moving, trying to stay quiet. The growl grew louder, and Jack's instincts kicked in. He needed to find shelter. He spotted a large tree with wide roots that could provide cover. He dashed toward it, feeling the adrenaline pump through his veins. Just as he reached the tree, he glanced back and saw something move in the shadows. Fear gripped him. He crouched behind the roots, hoping whatever it was wouldn't see him. His mind raced with thoughts of what could be out there. A wild animal, a hostile alien. He felt so small and vulnerable in this vast, unknown world. As he waited, he heard the rustling grow closer. Jack held his breath, peering out from behind the tree. Suddenly, a group of creatures emerged from the bushes. They were unlike anything Jack had ever seen. They were tall, with smooth, colorful skin and long, flowing hair. Their eyes were bright and curious, filled with both wonder and caution. The creatures were alien women, and they looked just as surprised to see Jack as he was to see them. Jack's heart raced, but he realized they did not seem hostile. They looked at him with a mix of fear and curiosity, whispering to each other in a language he couldn't understand. Jack took a cautious step forward, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "Hello, I'm Jack," he said slowly, hoping they would understand. The women glanced at each other, then back at him, their expressions softening slightly. One of the alien women, taller than the others, stepped forward. She had striking blue skin and bright green eyes that sparkled in the sunlight. Jack felt an odd connection to her, as if she could sense his fear and uncertainty. "Please, don't be afraid," Jack said, trying to sound calm. "I'm lost. I need help." The alien women continued to stare, and for a moment, it felt as if time had stopped. Jack realized he was not just lost in a jungle. He was in an alien world filled with mystery and wonder. Little did he know that this encounter would change his life forever. The wild encounter. Jack stood in front of the group of alien women, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. Their colorful skin shimmered in the sunlight, and their long hair flowed like silk. They whispered among themselves, their voices soft and melodic. Jack's heart raced as he tried to understand what was happening. He was on a strange planet, and these creatures were unlike anything he had ever seen. The tall alien woman with blue skin stepped closer, her green eyes fixed on Jack. He could see a mix of curiosity and caution in her gaze. Jack took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said slowly. "I just need help." The blue-skinned woman tilted her head, as if trying to understand his words. Then she reached out a hand, palm open. Jack felt a spark of hope. Is this a sign of peace? He wondered. He carefully stepped forward and placed his hand in hers. The moment their skin touched, Jack felt a warmth spread through him, as if she was sharing a part of her energy. The other women watched closely, their expressions softening as they saw the exchange. Jack noticed their features were delicate, and they all seemed to share a similar beauty. They wore simple clothing made of woven leaves and colorful fibers. Their attire blended perfectly with the jungle surroundings. After a moment, the blue-skinned woman spoke in a gentle voice, though Jack could not understand her words. He sensed kindness in her tone. "Can you help me?" he asked again, trying to convey his desperation. The women exchanged glances, and then the blue-skinned woman nodded slowly. Suddenly, the group began to move, gesturing for Jack to follow them. He hesitated for a moment, unsure of whether to trust these wild beings. But the look in the blue-skinned woman's eyes gave him courage. He decided to follow them deeper into the jungle. As they walked, Jack observed the beauty of the planet. The trees towered above him, their leaves creating a vibrant green canopy. Colorful flowers bloomed everywhere, and strange creatures scurried through the underbrush. The air was filled with the sweet scent of fruits and the sounds of chirping insects. The alien women led Jack through the thick jungle, their movements graceful and fluid. They seemed at home in this wild environment. Jack felt clumsy in comparison, but he did his best to keep up. The women would occasionally glance back at him, smiling softly, which made him feel more at ease. After a while, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a large ancient tree with wide roots that twisted like snakes. The tree looked like it had been there for centuries, its bark rough and dark. Around it were small huts made of leaves and branches. Jack realized he had stumbled upon their village. The alien women gathered around the tree, and Jack could see other villagers peeking out from their huts. They looked curious and wary, but did not seem hostile. The blue-skinned woman motioned for Jack to come closer, and he stepped into the clearing. "Welcome to our home," she said, her voice soft yet firm. Jack was surprised to hear her speak in simple words. It seemed she was trying to communicate, even if her language was still foreign to him. Jack smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "Thank you for helping me." "I'm Jack, and I'm lost," he replied, hoping she understood. The blue-skinned woman smiled back, her eyes twinkling. The other women began to gather around him, and Jack noticed they had brought some fruits and water from their huts. They offered him a few strange-looking fruits, and he hesitated for a moment. "Are these safe to eat?" he asked, looking at them curiously. The blue-skinned woman nodded and took a bite of one herself, showing him it was good. With a mix of curiosity and hunger, Jack took a fruit and took a bite. The taste exploded in his mouth, sweet and juicy. He couldn't help but smile as he devoured the rest. As he ate, Jack felt a sense of belonging. The alien women laughed softly, their eyes sparkling with joy as they watched him enjoy their food. He learned their names as they introduced themselves: Mira, Leela, and Tia. Each woman had a unique beauty and personality, and Jack found himself drawn to them. After the meal, Mira, the blue-skinned woman, led Jack to the base of the great tree. She began to gesture with her hands, mimicking actions that Jack couldn't quite understand. She pointed to the tree, then to herself, and then to him. Jack furrowed his brow, trying to decipher her meaning. "Are you trying to tell me about this tree?" he asked, unsure. Mira nodded enthusiastically and motioned for him to sit with her. As they sat under the tree's shade, the other women joined them. Mira began to tell a story through gestures and sounds, her voice filled with emotion. Jack watched, fascinated. Even though he couldn't understand her words, he felt the power of her story. It was a tale of courage and unity, and it made him feel connected to these wild alien women. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of the jungle and the warmth of the villagers, Jack knew that he was not just lost. He had found something special here, a chance to become part of their world, to learn from them, and maybe even to protect them in the future. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a great adventure that would change his life forever. A desperate request. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light over the jungle, Jack felt a sense of calm wash over him. He was sitting under the great tree with Mira, Leela, and Tia, surrounded by the sounds of the jungle coming to life. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and fruits, making him feel at ease. However, a lingering question nagged at him. Why had these alien women brought him here? Mira finished her story and looked at Jack, her eyes shining with curiosity. She pointed to the jungle around them, and then to herself, trying to communicate something important. Jack sensed that something was about to change, and his heart began to race again. "Mira," he said gently, "what do you want me to know?" He hoped she would understand his words. Mira's expression shifted to one of seriousness. She glanced at Leela and Tia, who exchanged worried looks. Then she turned back to Jack, her voice low and urgent. "Danger," she said, using her hands to mimic a big creature. She growled softly and raised her arms to show size. Jack's heart dropped. Was there a monster in this jungle? Jack leaned closer, trying to grasp the meaning behind her gestures. "Is there a beast out there?" he asked, his voice steady despite the rising fear inside him. Mira nodded, her face showing a mix of fear and determination. Leela joined in, pointing to the direction of the darkening jungle. "It comes," she said, her voice filled with urgency. Tia nodded and gestured wildly, mimicking the fear they all felt. Jack's mind raced. He knew he had to help these women. They had already shown him kindness. "What do you need me to do?" Jack asked, wanting to sound brave. Mira pointed at him, then made a motion as if holding a weapon. He understood immediately. She wanted him to protect them. "I can help," he replied, determination flooding through him. "But I need to know more about this creature. What does it look like? How does it attack?" Jack felt the weight of the responsibility growing heavier on his shoulders, but he was ready to face it. Mira, seeing his courage, began to explain more with her gestures. She pointed to the sky, then to the ground, indicating that the creature moved quickly. She opened her mouth wide, mimicking a roar that sent shivers down Jack's spine, big and loud. She said, her voice trembling with the memory of fear. Leela and Tia chimed in, adding their own movements. They showed Jack how the creature would hide in the shadows and leap at its prey. Jack watched carefully, understanding their fear more and more. This creature was a real threat to their village. "Okay," Jack said, feeling adrenaline pump through his veins. "We need to set up a plan. If it attacks, We have to be ready." The women nodded eagerly, their expressions shifting from fear to hope. Jack stood up and began to pace, thinking quickly. "First, we need to know where it comes from. Do you have a place where you can see the area around the village?" Mira nodded and pointed toward a tall cliff in the distance. "Good. We'll set a lookout there." He then pointed at the tree. "Next, we can use the materials here to make some weapons." Taya's eyes lit up, and she jumped to gather sharp sticks and vines. The other women followed her lead, excited to contribute. As the women worked, Jack felt a rush of energy. They were all working together, each of them bringing their own skills to the task. Jack showed them how to sharpen the sticks to create makeshift spears. He felt proud to teach them, and they listened intently, picking up the techniques quickly. After a short time, the women had gathered enough materials. Jack looked at their makeshift weapons and smiled. "These will help us defend ourselves," he said, feeling a sense of unity building among them. "Now let's scout the area," Jack suggested, motioning for the women to follow him. They all headed toward the cliff Mira had pointed out. The sun was setting, casting long shadows in the jungle. The colors of the sky changed to shades of orange and pink, creating a beautiful backdrop, but Jack's focus was on the task ahead. When they reached the cliff, Jack climbed to the top and peered over the edge. The view was breathtaking. Below him lay the village, surrounded by dense trees and thick underbrush. But as he scanned the area, a chill ran down his spine. He spotted movement in the shadows, a large shape lurking just beyond the tree line. "There," Jack shouted, pointing. The women quickly gathered around him, and their faces turned pale with fear as they saw the dark figure. It was massive, larger than anything Jack had ever encountered. It was covered in thick fur, and its eyes glowed like fire. Jack turned to Mira, his heart racing. "We need to warn the others." He felt a rush of urgency. They had to act fast. "Let's go back and prepare." The women nodded, their faces set with determination. As they hurried back down the cliff, Jack felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was his chance to protect them, to be the hero they needed. He knew he couldn't let them down. Together, they would face the beast and keep their village safe. Little did Jack know, this battle would test not only his courage, but also the bond he had formed with these wild alien women, becoming their protector. As Jack and the alien women made their way back to the village, the sun sank lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the jungle floor. Jack felt a surge of adrenaline. He was about to become a protector, a role he never imagined he would play, especially in a strange world filled with alien creatures. The fear he had felt earlier was replaced with a sense of purpose. When they arrived at the village, the other villagers were gathered around the great tree, their faces lined with worry. Mira quickly explained the situation using gestures, pointing to Jack and then mimicking the creature's fierce appearance. The villagers listened, their expressions shifting from fear to determination as they realized they had someone to help them. "Everyone, we need to prepare," Jack called out, his voice steady. The villagers looked at him, their eyes filled with hope. "We can't let this creature attack us without a fight." The women immediately began to organize the villagers. They gathered everyone and began to make more weapons from the sharp sticks and vines Jack had shown them. Jack moved among them, encouraging them and teaching them how to use the makeshift spears. "Hold them firmly and aim for its legs if it comes near," he instructed, demonstrating the stance. As the villagers practiced, Jack felt a growing bond with them. He was no longer just a stranger. He was becoming part of their community. They looked at him with respect, and he could see their fear slowly melting away. They were united in their mission, and that filled Jack with hope. After a while, they had made enough weapons for everyone. Jack stepped back to survey their work. The villagers, with their determined faces, stood ready to defend their home. Mira stepped up beside him, her green eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, Jack," she said softly, her voice filled with sincerity. Jack nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest. We're in this together. We will protect each other. He looked around at the villagers, who were now standing tall and ready. They had transformed from fearful beings into brave warriors, ready to face the unknown. As night fell, the jungle came alive with sounds. Jack could hear the rustling of leaves and distant animal calls, but one sound stood out, the low growl of the creature lurking nearby. His heart raced, but he reminded himself to stay calm. They were prepared. They had each other. Jack led the villagers to a clearing near the edge of the jungle where they could keep watch. He assigned some of the villagers to stand guard, while others prepared to set up a perimeter with their makeshift spears. "Stay quiet and alert," he instructed. "We'll know when it's coming." The night dragged on, and tension filled the air. Jack could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He had to protect these women and their village, but he also felt the fear creeping in. What if he wasn't strong enough? What if the creature was too powerful? Suddenly, a chilling roar echoed through the trees, sending shivers down Jack's spine. The villagers tensed, gripping their weapons tightly. "It's here," Jack shouted. "Get ready." The creature emerged from the shadows, its massive form silhouetted against the moonlight. Jack's heart raced as he took in its size, much larger than he had imagined. Its fur was dark, and its eyes glowed with a fierce light. Jack could see its sharp teeth glinting as it growled, showing its intention to attack. "Stay close," Jack ordered the villagers, positioning himself in front of Mira and the others. He raised his spear, feeling a surge of determination. "We can do this," he shouted, trying to rally their spirits. The creature charged, and the ground shook beneath its heavy steps. Jack took a deep breath and focused. He had to stay strong for them. Just as the creature lunged, Jack and the villagers threw their spears. Some struck true, embedding in the creature's legs, making it roar in pain. But it was not enough to stop it. The creature swiped at Jack with a powerful paw, and he barely managed to dodge, rolling to the side. "Keep attacking," he yelled, adrenaline pumping through his veins. Mira and the other women followed his command, hurling their spears and shouting war cries. Jack felt a rush of pride as he saw the bravery of the alien women and villagers standing together. They were united, fighting for their lives and their home. The creature was furious, but it was also injured. It stumbled and snarled, its growls echoing through the jungle. Jack saw an opening. "Now, aim for the eyes," he shouted, pointing to the glowing Orcs. With renewed determination, the villagers focused their efforts. They threw their spears with all their strength. One spear struck true, hitting the creature in the eye. It howled in agony, and for a moment it seemed disoriented. "Now's our chance," Jack shouted. He led the charge, and the villagers followed. They moved as one, surrounding the creature and attacking with everything they had. Jack felt fear and excitement coursing through him as they fought back. The battle was fierce, but Jack and the villagers were relentless. They had come together as a team, fighting for their survival. As the creature weakened, its growls turned into desperate cries. Jack felt a surge of triumph. They were going to win. With one final push, they overwhelmed the creature. Jack could hardly believe it when he saw the beast finally fall to the ground, defeated. The jungle fell silent, the only sound being the heavy breathing of the villagers. They had done it. They had protected their home, and Jack had become their protector. As he looked around at the faces of the women and villagers, he felt a sense of belonging wash over him. He was no longer just a lost astronaut. He was part of this brave community, and together, they could face anything that came their way. The connection grows. The sun rose the next day, casting a warm glow over the village. Jack woke to the sound of laughter and chatter. It filled the air with a sense of joy and relief. The battle with the creature was over, and the villagers were celebrating their victory. Jack felt a sense of pride swell in his chest. They had fought together, and they had won. As Jack stepped outside, he was greeted by Mira, Leela, and Tia. Their faces were bright, and their smiles were wide. "You did it," Mira exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. She hugged Jack tightly, and he could feel the warmth of her gratitude. "You are our protector now," she said, her eyes sparkling. Jack smiled back, feeling a deep sense of connection with her. "We did it together. I couldn't have done it without all of you." He looked around at the villagers, who were now bustling about, preparing a feast to celebrate their victory. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and happiness, a stark contrast to the fear of the previous night. As the villagers prepared food, Jack noticed the women working together, sharing stories and laughter. He felt a sense of belonging that he had never experienced before. The alien women were not just his allies, they were becoming his friends. Jack joined them, helping to gather fruits and vegetables from the nearby plants. Layla showed him how to pick the best fruits, pointing out the ones that were ripe and sweet. He watched as she expertly chose the finest ones, her hands moving quickly and gracefully. Jack admired her skill and couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. "Like this," Layla said, picking a large, bright fruit. She took a big bite, juice running down her chin. Jack laughed, feeling more at ease. He took a bite of a different fruit and was surprised by how sweet it was. "This is amazing," he exclaimed. As they worked, Jack noticed Mira watching him with a soft smile. There was a spark of something between them, a connection that seemed to grow stronger each day. Jack felt drawn to her kind spirit and adventurous nature. They had faced danger together, and now they were sharing moments of joy. After gathering enough food, they returned to the village center. The villagers had set up a large fire, and everyone was preparing for the feast. Jack helped arrange the food, placing the fruits and vegetables in colorful piles. The scent of roasted meat filled the air, making Jack's stomach growl. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the villagers gathered around the fire. They shared stories of their bravery during the battle, their voices rising in excitement. Jack felt a sense of pride as he listened to their tales, each one filled with laughter and joy. Mira stood up and called for attention. "Today we celebrate," she announced, her voice carrying through the crowd. "We are safe, thanks to Jack. He fought for us." The villagers cheered, their voices echoing in the jungle. Jack felt a rush of warmth at her words, his heart swelling with pride. After the applause faded, Jack took a deep breath. "I couldn't have done it without all of you. We fought together, and that made us strong." He glanced at each of the villagers, meeting their eyes. "I'm grateful to be here with you." The celebration continued, with laughter and music filling the night. Jack found himself sitting next to Mira, their shoulders touching. As the fire crackled, he could feel her warmth beside him. "I never thought I would feel this way," Jack admitted, his voice low. Mira looked at him, her eyes serious yet gentle. "What do you mean?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. "I've traveled far and seen many worlds, but I've never felt like this before," he explained. "Here, with all of you, I feel connected, like I belong." He took a deep breath, the words flowing from his heart. "It's like I found my place." Mira smiled, her expression softening. "We feel it too, Jack. You are part of our family now." She reached out and took his hand, a simple gesture that sent a spark of warmth through him. "Together, we can face anything." As the night wore on, Jack and Mira exchanged stories of their lives, their laughter mingling with the music and sounds of the jungle. Jack shared tales of Earth and his adventures, while Mira told him about the legends of her people. They spoke until the stars filled the sky, twinkling brightly overhead. The connection between them deepened as they shared their dreams and fears. Jack learned about Mira's passion for exploring, her desire to see the stars beyond their world. In return, he opened up about his longing for home, the family, and friends he missed. But as they talked, Jack also realized how much he had come to care for Mira and the villagers. He felt a sense of responsibility to protect them, to ensure their safety in this new world. The thought filled him with determination. He was no longer just a lost human. He had become a protector, a friend, and a vital part of their lives. As the fire crackled and the celebration continued, Jack knew that this place, these people, had become his new home. The bond he had formed with Mira and the villagers was unbreakable. He felt a sense of purpose, a calling to protect them and embrace this new life. Under the vast, starry sky, Jack smiled, feeling the warmth of friendship and connection surrounding him. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their journey and their hearts. The big battle. The days passed quickly, filled with laughter and learning. Jack settled into the village life, growing closer to Mira and the other villagers. They trained together, practiced their fighting skills, and shared stories around the fire at night. But deep down, Jack knew that peace would not last forever. The threat of the creature still loomed over them, and he had to prepare the villagers for a bigger battle that might come. One evening, while gathering fruits with Leela and Tia, Jack noticed the atmosphere in the jungle had changed. The air felt heavy, and the birds had gone silent. He turned to the women. "Do you feel that? Something doesn't seem right." Leela nodded, her brow furrowing. "I sense danger nearby. We should go back to the village." As they hurried back, Jack's heart raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The villagers were gathered around the fire when Jack arrived, their faces filled with concern. Mira stood at the front, her expression serious. "Jack, we have to talk," she said, urgency in her voice. "We saw the creature today. It was near the edge of the jungle, and it looked furious. It might come for us again." Jack's stomach sank. "We need to prepare. If it comes back, we have to be ready." He glanced around at the villagers, who looked worried but determined. "We can't let fear control us. We fought it once, and we can do it again." The villagers nodded, their spirits lifting at Jack's words. They gathered weapons and set up a plan. Jack led the training sessions, teaching them how to use their spears effectively and work as a team. He reminded them of their previous victory and how they had stood together against the creature. As night fell, the village was alive with activity. The villagers sharpened their weapons and set up defenses around the perimeter. Jack felt a mix of fear and excitement coursing through him. He was proud of how the villagers had come together, but he knew the battle ahead would be fierce. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the jungle, shaking the ground beneath them. The villagers froze, their eyes wide with fear. Jack's heart raced. "It's here," he shouted. "Get ready." The creature emerged from the shadows, larger and angrier than before. Its eyes glowed in the darkness, and it charged toward the village with a terrifying roar. Jack's blood ran cold, but he stood tall, gripping his spear tightly. "Stay together," he yelled, positioning himself in front of Mira and the other women. "Aim for its legs and eyes." The villagers quickly took their positions, standing firm against the oncoming beast. As it neared, Jack shouted, "Now!" They hurled their spears, and several struck the creature, causing it to howl in pain. But it was not enough to stop its charge. The creature lunged at the villagers, its massive paws swinging dangerously close. Jack dodged to the side just in time, adrenaline pumping through his veins. "We need to distract it," he yelled. "Create noise." Mira and Leela grabbed makeshift drums, banging them loudly to draw the creature's attention. The sound echoed through the jungle, and the creature turned, confused. This was their chance. "Go for its eyes," Jack shouted again, and the villagers threw more spears. One spear hit its eye, and the creature let out a deafening roar, thrashing in pain. Jack could see the creature weakening, but it was still dangerous. "Push forward," he commanded, charging toward the creature. The villagers followed him, their fear turning into determination. Jack felt a surge of bravery as he led them into battle. They fought together, aiming for the creature's legs to bring it down. The jungle was filled with the sounds of battle. Roars, shouts, and the clash of weapons. Jack felt the heat of the fight around him, the energy of the villagers fueling his spirit. They were fighting for their lives and their home. As they continued to attack, Jack noticed the creature was getting more aggressive. It swung its powerful tail, knocking a few villagers off their feet. "Stay alert," he shouted. "Don't let it separate us." They regrouped quickly, sticking together as a united front. Jack saw Mira near him, fear flashing in her eyes, but also a fierce determination. "We can do this," he encouraged, his voice steady. Together, with renewed strength, they pressed on. Jack aimed for the creature's remaining eye, gathering all his courage. "Now," he shouted again, and they threw their last spears with all their might. This time, the spear struck true, piercing the creature's other eye. The creature let out a final, agonizing roar, stumbling backward. Jack seized the moment. "Now, attack with everything you have," he urged. The villagers charged forward, their hearts pounding. They struck the creature repeatedly, pushing it back until it collapsed onto the ground with a heavy thud. The jungle fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of the villagers. Jack stood there, breathless, disbelief washing over him. They had done it. They had defeated the creature. He turned to the villagers who were staring at him in awe. Cheers erupted, filling the air with joy and relief. They hugged each other, their victory bringing them closer together. Mira ran to Jack, her face shining with happiness. "We did it, Jack. You led us to victory." Jack felt a wave of pride wash over him. "We did it together. You all were amazing." He looked around at the smiling faces, the fear replaced with joy. They were no longer just a group of villagers. They were a family. As the moon rose high above, they gathered around the fire once more, this time to celebrate their triumph. Jack shared stories of their bravery, each tale filled with laughter and cheers. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged in the fire of battle. In that moment, Jack knew he had found his place among them. He was not just a protector. He was part of a community that would stand together against any threat. And as he sat next to Mira, surrounded by friends and family, he felt a sense of belonging he had never known before. The jungle was alive with hope, and so was he. A new family. Jack opened his eyes to the gentle rustling of leaves and the soft chirping of strange birds. He took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh, sweet scent of the jungle. The last few days had been a whirlwind of challenges and victories. After crash landing on this alien planet, he had formed a bond with the wild alien women of the village. They had welcomed him as one of their own, and now he felt more at home than ever. As he rose from his makeshift bed of leaves and vines, Jack glanced around the small hut where he had been sleeping. The walls were made of woven branches, and the roof was covered in large, broad leaves. It was simple but warm, and he appreciated the comfort it provided after his long journey through space. He smiled, feeling a sense of belonging that he had never experienced before. Jack stepped outside to find the village alive with activity. The sun was shining brightly, casting a golden glow over everything. Villagers were gathering food and preparing for the day ahead. He spotted Mira, Leela, and Tia, the three alien women who had become his closest friends. They were laughing and chatting, their voices ringing with happiness. "Good morning, Jack," Leela called, waving at him. Her hair shone like the sun, and her eyes sparkled with excitement. "We are making breakfast. Come join us." Jack grinned and hurried over to them. "What are we having?" he asked, his stomach rumbling in anticipation. "Fruit and roasted roots," Tia replied, holding up a large, colorful fruit. "You will love it." As they prepared the meal together, Jack felt a warmth in his heart. The women treated him like family, and he enjoyed their company. They chatted about their lives, sharing stories and laughter as they worked. Jack learned more about their culture, their traditions, and their dreams. Mira leaned against a tree, watching Jack with a smile. "You know, you've become an important part of our village," she said, her voice soft yet firm. "We are grateful to have you here." Jack's heart swelled at her words. "I feel the same way. "I've never had a family like this before," he admitted. "You all have made me feel welcome." As they finished cooking, the villagers gathered for breakfast. The food was colorful and smelled delicious. Jack took a seat among the villagers, and they passed around the fruit and roots. He watched as everyone enjoyed the meal, their faces lit with joy. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and chatter, and Jack felt a deep sense of connection with these people. After breakfast, they planned the day's activities. Jack was eager to learn more about their way of life. Mira suggested they go on a hunting expedition. "We need to gather more food, and it will be fun. You can show us how humans hunt," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Jack agreed, feeling a rush of adrenaline at the thought of exploring the jungle. He had experience hunting back on Earth, but this alien world was different. "Let's do it," he said, enthusiasm pouring from him. As they ventured into the jungle, Jack felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The dense foliage surrounded them, filled with sounds he had never heard before. Strange creatures called out from the trees, and the air was thick with the scent of flowers and earth. The women moved gracefully through the jungle, their senses keen. Jack followed closely, admiring how they navigated the terrain. They pointed out edible plants and berries, teaching him about their environment. He felt like a child again, eager to learn from his new family. After a while, they came across a small clearing. Jack spotted a group of animals grazing nearby. They looked similar to deer, but their skin shimmered with vibrant colors. "This is perfect," he whispered to Mira. "I can use my skills to catch one." Mira nodded, her expression serious. "Be careful, Jack. They can be fast." Jack crept forward, focusing on the animals. He remembered the techniques his father had taught him. With quiet determination, he picked up a sturdy branch and fashioned a simple spear. Taking a deep breath, he prepared to throw it. Suddenly, one of the animals raised its head, sensing something was wrong. Jack's heart raced as he quickly threw the spear. It flew through the air, striking one of the animals. The creature stumbled and fell, and Jack felt a rush of triumph. "Great shot!" Leela cheered, her voice filled with excitement. Jack rushed over to the fallen animal, feeling a mix of pride and gratitude. "This will feed us for days," he said, turning to the women. "Thank you for believing in me." As they worked together to prepare the animal for the village, Jack felt a deeper bond forming between them. They laughed and shared stories, celebrating their success. The work felt easy and joyful, each moment bringing them closer together. When they returned to the village, the villagers welcomed them with cheers. They had brought food, and the excitement was palpable. Jack couldn't help but smile as he saw the joy on everyone's faces. It felt good to contribute, to be part of something bigger than himself. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, the villagers gathered around the fire for a feast. They cooked the meat, sharing stories and laughter late into the night. Jack felt overwhelmed with happiness. In that moment, surrounded by his new family, Jack realized he had found a place where he belonged. He had come from a distant world, but here he felt at home. The love and acceptance he received from Mira, Leela, Tia, and the other villagers filled his heart with warmth. As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled overhead, Jack knew that this was just the beginning of his new life. He had found not just friends, but family. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their strength and love for one another.